All right, let's dive right into this explainer. When we use tools like ChatGPT or generate those amazing images from a text prompt, it feels completely weightless, right? It feels like it's all just happening magically in the cloud. But today, we're going to look at the very grounded, very physical reality of artificial intelligence. And spoiler alert, that reality is heading straight for your wallet. The sheer scale of what's happening behind the scenes right now is honestly staggering. According to the Associated Press, an estimated $700 billion is being invested in AI data centers this year alone. Let that sink in for a second. $700 billion. To put that into perspective, it is a monumental influx of cash, entirely dedicated to building the physical homes for AI brains. It's a modern-day gold rush, but instead of pickaxes, companies are buying up prime real estate, massive cooling systems, and highly specialized computer chips. Section 1. The $700 billion AI boom. Now, this massive investment isn't happening in a vacuum. As the AP News report points out, this gusher of investment is actively driving up the cost of electronics and electricity for everyday consumers. Think about it. When $700 billion is suddenly channeled into acquiring specific materials and energy, it creates a massive vacuum. It pulls resources away from other sectors, and the basic laws of supply and demand kick in hard. Suddenly, you and I are competing with multi-trillion-dollar tech giants for the exact same underlying resources. Section 2. Data centers running 24/7. So, here is the heavy industrial reality of the AI boom. These data centers aren't just big buildings. They are incredibly energy-dense facilities that require a constant, uninterrupted flow of massive amounts of electricity. We're talking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To meet this sudden extreme demand, the AP notes that traditional gas plants are actually being utilized and expanded. This is creating a massive strain on our existing infrastructure, and it's actively challenging a lot of the renewable energy alternatives that we were trying to phase in. The AI industry is hungry, it needs reliable power right this second, and that is literally reshaping our energy landscape in real time. Section 3. Why electronics cost more. The answer to why your gadgets are getting pricier lies directly in the hardware. AI requires a literal mountain of specific components to function, particularly memory chips. You can think of these semiconductors as the short-term memory of a computer, and AI models absolutely devour them to process unimaginably large data sets all at once. Because the tech giants building these data centers are buying up memory chips in these absolutely massive quantities, supplies have run incredibly low for the entire rest of the market. Get a load of this estimate from economists at JP Morgan Chase, cited by the AP. The cost of some computer memory chips is expected to soar by up to 400% between the start of 2024 and the end of this year. 400%. In a single year. That is a massive inflationary spike. I mean, if your morning coffee went up by 400%, you definitely notice, right? When a core component of almost every electronic device quadruples in price, that cost doesn't just magically disappear. And that brings us directly to your wallet. You are going to feel the pinch on everyday items. Analysts are expecting that these soaring component costs will translate to price hikes for consumer electronics next. We're talking Apple MacBooks, iPhones, you name it. The companies making your personal gadgets now have to pay a serious premium for the parts inside them, and they are highly likely to pass those costs right on to you. But actually, it's not just your gadgets. It's the power required to run your own home. Section 4. The power grid problem. Let's trace exactly how this ripple effect unfolds. Step 1, AI demands 24/7 electricity, just like we talked about with those data centers. Step 2, this massive concentrated demand places an unprecedented strain on our existing local power grids. The infrastructure simply wasn't built to handle this kind of load appearing out of nowhere, so this forces massive, expensive upgrades. Power lines have to be fortified, substations need to be built, and new power generation has to come online, which leads us to step 3, utility costs rise for everyday consumers. The billions of dollars required to upgrade the power grid ultimately threatens to show up as a high-cost headache right there on your monthly utility bill. Which brings us to Section 5, who pays the AI bill? We really have two distinct sides to this debate. On one hand, big tech is the one driving this specific immense demand. They're initiating the $700 billion data center build-out, and they're the ones perfectly positioned to reap the massive profits from this whole AI revolution. So from that perspective, you could easily argue they should foot the bill for the grid upgrades their servers demand. But on the other hand, the historical reality is that utility companies almost always pass infrastructure and generation costs directly down to everyday consumers through rate hikes. If a local grid needs upgrading, usually everyone attached to it pays a little more, whether you're a massive data center or a family living in a two-bedroom apartment. So here's what I want to know from you. The AI revolution is here. It is incredibly exciting, but man, it requires a staggering amount of physical resources and electricity. When it comes to upgrading the power grid to keep these data centers running 24/7, who should ultimately foot the bill? Should big tech be required to cover the specific infrastructure costs their products demand, or is it just inevitable that consumers will share the burden through higher monthly utility bills as the grid evolves? Drop your opinion in the comments below. I am so fascinated to see where you all stand on this. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.